And if there are no more member comments, we will move on to number 4 on the discussion item. Jennifer Venema is presenting Introduction to 350 Sacramento.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jennifer Venema here. Great to see you all tonight. Happy to be back. Just by way of a quick introduction, I spoke with you commissioners at last month's meeting in advance of Earth Day. I had a really great talk and good initial feedback at that meeting. Just as a reminder and a recap for new commissioners, we had an ad hoc working committee established for collaboration on the city's climate efforts. And since then, very excited to report back that we had a fantastic curated discussion with 3 of our commissioners and Moise Mir, our guest here tonight, around issues of Earth Day. So I'm here to bring in Moise to tell us more about the great work that Sacramento 350 has been leading youth programming in our community, and happy to be here to learn more with you all and answer any questions. So with that, I will turn it over to Moise.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for having me. Again, my name is Moise Mir, I use he pronouns, and I work for 350 Sacramento. I'll just be doing a quick presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started with that. And so, yeah, just kind of a quick introduction to 350 Sacramento, and then there's a bit of my contact information there. It'll also be the last slide. But to just dive right into it, who is 350 Sacramento? So 350 Sacramento is a local grassroots nonprofit organization committed to equitable solutions that accelerate the transition to a sustainable future with atmospheric carbon dioxide levels below 350 parts per million. 350 parts per million being considered kind of the safe upper limit of how much carbon dioxide we can have in our atmosphere, and that's kind of where our namesake comes from. And as we think about climate change, it's very much a global problem that we're facing. At 350 Sacramento, we're really focused on local solutions, and so 350.org is an international organization, but 350 Sacramento is very much an independent, local, small Sacramento organization. And kind of, as you can see on the slide in that image, we really believe in local action for a global movement. And that was kind of our mission statement of what the future we're trying to get to. But what does 350 Sacramento do? And so for 10 years, we started in 2010 in October. 350 Sacramento has been an all-volunteer organization, primarily funded from small contributions by individual donors. But starting in June 2020, we hired our first staff member and are hoping to grow. That being me, I work full-time for 350 Sacramento to try to advance our mission and all of the work that we do in advocating, educating, training, organizing, and mobilizing. And I'll talk about on the next few slides a few of our projects that kind of illustrate how we go about that. But really, we believe in a world with a safe climate where nature is respected and protected, and also a world in which our social, our political, our economic systems work for all people and the planet. And so we know that in order to get to that future, in order to build that future that we want to see, we have to build the climate movement specifically. And some of our past campaigns throughout kind of our past 10 years of activism in Sacramento have been back in 2014, we stopped oil trains from up in Quebec from coming and running through Sacramento. Just in the past 2 years, we've seen climate emergency declarations passed at the city of Sacramento in December of 2019, following a campaign in partnership with other organizations, lots of youth engagement at public meetings, city council meetings, climate strikes that were going on that year in 2019. Since then, we've also had the Sacramento County Climate Emergency Declaration passed. SMUD, even the first utility of its kind in the nation, passed a climate emergency declaration, which is really exciting as well as we think about our utility and our energy. And so we do a lot of advocacy kind of at every level of local government, whether it's city government, county government, state government, and now we're also looking into federal government as possibilities open up. And also, in addition to kind of that work as advocacy, on the outside, we've also done work within government. I think Jennifer Venema has in the past spoken about the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change and the work that has done in developing a set of recommendations for the cities of Sacramento and West Sacramento to get on a path towards carbon neutrality. This is a picture of all of the commissioners on the Mayor's Commission, launched with Mayors Steinberg and Cabalden at the time of West Sacramento. We actually were the only kind of local, small, grassroots nonprofit that does environmental advocacy that was represented on that commission, all the way on the left over here with our founding president, Lori Littman, as one of the commissioners. And aside from being one of the commissioners on the commission, a lot of our volunteers were engaged. There were technical advisory committees on things like the built environment, on things like equity, on things like community health and resiliency. And we have a lot of experts, a lot of retired experts, a lot of youth experts on various environmental issues that helped inform those recommendations. And as we kind of really talk about building the local climate movement, we have to also recognize it is a movement for social justice. It is a movement for improving our lives, our day-to-day lives, on a real local level. And so some ways we've built community and the local climate movement in Sacramento historically have been climate strikes. And so we do movie nights very often. We try to do a monthly documentary screening. Again, getting into education, climate coffee, kind of a social space where every month we just get together and talk about climate change and ways that we can make change. Ode to Earth, and kind of talking about art is an annual celebration of Earth and of one another and all local artists in the Sacramento area. As we think about Earth Day the past few years within a pandemic, how have we approached that? I think, as was just mentioned by one of the commissioners, a climate chalk out. We did a climate chalk out last Earth Day, where all across Sacramento we did chalk art for kind of environmental messaging, accompanied with an Earth Day live stream. We did a 12-hour live stream, again in partnership with other organizations last year. And then this year we did a Sacramento cleanup in partnership with the city of Sacramento and lots of other partners. And so that's just kind of some of the work that we do. We do lots of different things, but what I'm really here to talk about today is kind of our work in youth. And so back in the summer of 2019, we held our first youth camp for climate action. It was a basic introduction to climate activism and how to do it. Some of you have attended that, and so I'm really excited to be back in space with you again. And it was kind of a 3-weekend over the summer in-person youth camp that we did. And as we kind of think about what is 350 Sacramento currently doing, what I'm really here to talk about today is our student environmental activist training. And so something that we started this past year in 2021 is a youth training program open to all middle and high school students that is fully free to anyone in the Sacramento area. And so in the spring 2021 academic semester, starting in January, we hosted a free 10-unit after-school program. And the really key goals of the SEAT program, I'm going to call it Student Environmental Activist Training Program, are first to provide education and training around key civic, leadership, social justice, activist, and community organizing skills and concepts that aren't traditionally covered in schools. Our second goal is to connect students across the region. This was kind of a real unique opportunity because of not having to worry about transportation, because we're all meeting on Zoom, to create a network of support for students to create and collaborate across environmental, climate, and social justice clubs at their individual schools. And so regardless of where you are in the Sacramento region, there are pockets in every single school in the Sacramento region of students that are interested in those issues, and those social issues, environmental, climate issues. And so why not connect you all with one another and provide that support and opportunity to build your power together. And then our last goal was to connect students to opportunities. We have so many connections over our 10 years of advocacy being in Sacramento. We know so many partner organizations, so volunteer opportunities, even workforce development programs, exposure to local groups working to advance kind of social justice and environmental justice in Sacramento. And kind of core to our program is also giving students a chance to hear from those guest speakers. And so we bring them into our program, including other nonprofits, again, community and social justice advocates and organizations, and green workforce development programs in the Sacramento area. And what are some of those groups that we've brought in? We really try to think about this not just as climate and environmental justice, because we recognize that those broad concepts cover and are connected with every other aspect of social justice if we really think about them. And so one of the kind of key partners we have is Grid Alternatives, which is a low-income solar policy advocate. We also do a lot of green workforce development training in the Sacramento area. And so bringing them in as a green workforce development provider. As students graduate, you have to be 18 to volunteer with them or go through their workforce development program, but bringing them in as a source of knowledge and a possible source of career pathway. And they also do volunteer solar installations, again, if you're over 18. Our partners at Sunrise Movement Sacramento, also Fridays for Future Sacramento, which are both youth-led groups of community organizers and activists for climate justice, in this case with association with the National Sunrise Movement, with Fridays for Future case, in association with the global movement for Fridays for Future. Resources for Independent Living, which promotes the socioeconomic independence of persons with disabilities by providing services and advocacy. And so really recognizing, as we think about, again, the built environment, as we think about kind of our social model of disability, how our built environment, how our environment, the structures, the institutions that we build are really kind of the factor of what disables a person. Social Justice Political Sacramento, which is kind of a group that crowdsources local politics. They track, report on, and mobilize volunteers around social justice issues in local government. And those are just a few of our partners. I won't touch on all of them. But how does the SEAT program really work? So I mentioned this 10-unit program. The way we did it in the spring 2021 semester was a 10-week program. And so we had 2 educational modules, and that's kind of the core of the curriculum with varying formats. So we did presentations and tried to have a good mix of discussion and open space for us to learn together. It's really supposed to be a collaborative, interactive learning space to empower, not overburden. So there's no homework, there's no extra, requirements. It's really much just, we hope for active participation. We want this to be a positive experience, not something that is another thing on your list of things to do and get done in a day. In addition to those 2 educational modules, there's also 1 community module for each unit. And so that's really where we bring in our guest speakers. We also host workshops for things like how to start a club at your school, kind of just practical skills. And again, as we kind of think about where the program is going, we started as a after-school program, but we're also hoping to do a summer program. This is kind of just a quick overview of what the curriculum is. I won't touch on all of these concepts, but we just start off with a quick baseline. We move into environmental and social justice concepts, talk about approaches to change, local political processes and civic skills, activist skills, how to build a movement and sustain it, not just a moment, and how to do so sustainably in respect to ourselves and our mental health, how to develop campaigns, how to engage the public, and then how to think about press, brand, perception, and media. And so it's kind of really just a crash course introduction to all of these concepts. And so hopefully students that go through this program are suited to then go on into their communities, into their schools, and be advocates, organizers of their own. And so kind of just a quick recap, summer 2021 session is currently open for registration. We're hoping to get as many students as possible. Again, this is a fully free program. It is also an unfunded program. It's a program that we're doing that we decided to do because we thought it was important, and we're actively seeking funding so we can also not just operate it, but hopefully use the program as an opportunity to create internship opportunities where we want to hire students who are past graduates of the program to come back as interns to help operate it themselves, and really kind of thinking of it as a scalable, a replicable program that students can bring to their own schools and their own communities across Sacramento. And for folks who can't see the slide, I'll just read out 350sacramento.org/SEAT is the website that you can access to find more information about it. The way we did outreach for our initial session, we did a lot of, I think, over a dozen presentations to various classes, to clubs, to community groups, to the Sacramento Native American Health Center's Youth Ambassador Program, for example. We really tried to reach out and are still very much trying to reach out and doing presentations about this program to hopefully reach as many students as possible. That's my presentation. Thanks for having us. We would love to collaborate. Within our program curriculum is kind of how local government works, how city government works. The Sacramento Youth Commission would be an amazing partner to bring in and expose students to, and do some outreach for the Youth Commission as well. Some ways to get involved are our email newsletter, where you can find regular volunteer opportunities and kind of hear all about what we're doing. I put linktr.ee/350sac, which is our link tree to find kind of lots of links that are useful. Again, it's our website, 350sacramento.org, and 350sacramento.org/seat specifically for the youth program. Our Instagram and Facebook are 350 Sacramento. And then if you are watching this and happen to be interested in helping support this program, you can go to 350sacramento.org/donate. And I would be remiss not to mention that this Thursday is the big day of giving, which is a key opportunity for Sacramento nonprofits, not just 350 Sacramento, but all Sacramento nonprofits, to fundraise for our local campaigns and our local work. So whether you're donating to 350 Sacramento or to other nonprofits, definitely check out bigdayofgiving.org and show us all some love. We have lots of great work going on in our community, and it's important to support that so we can keep doing it. Yeah, that was my presentation. I will stop sharing my slides again. My information is on the slide, and I'll read it out again. Where's me? I use he and pronouns. I'm the program coordinator at 350 Sacramento. My email's moiz.mir@350sacramento.org if anyone's interested in contacting me. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Do we have any public comments on this item? I am guessing that we do not.
No public comments. I apologize.
Thank you. Commissioners who wish to speak, please raise your hand and I will keep stack and call on you as you guys appear. Commissioner Flanagan.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for coming out tonight. I truly appreciate this presentation, and it's always great hearing climate action being brought to the commission. I always love hearing about that topic and just having it consistently updated. I just want to start off saying I absolutely love the training program. It was great seeing all the modules and topics being covered. I just had one quick question. It's more of a clarification question. So I believe you guys said it was for middle school and high school students, and I know the age range can be kind of big on that. Is it going to be broken up into specific age groups with different sessions, or is it just going to be all of that ages in one kind of session and they're getting the same information?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so I think as we approach our summer, it'll really depend on volume. Our first session that we did this spring 2021, 10-week session, we had them all kind of grouped just in one. We only had 2 middle school students active in it, but in total, it was mostly high school students, but we hope to reach more middle students, middle school students. And I'll also add, we have had so far in our outreach about 78 students sign up. Some of them who signed up for our spring session, which already happened, but some of which signed up for kind of our summer and hopefully our fall semesters coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Medina.
Hi, I would like to say thank you for your presentation. I just had a clarification question also regarding the student environmental activist training program. Is it going to be held online on like via Zoom? Because I know as like everything has been on Zoom for me for most of the year, and I feel like most teams mentally draining and they won't be at their full potential if it's online. So I said we clarified how is it going to be like held?
Yeah, how is the program going to be held, I think was your question. And so, again, for the spring 2021 semester, it started back in January, and so it was all online over Zoom. I think as we approach our summer and fall semesters, hopefully, we're hoping, depending on, we're going to be monitoring the situation. We'll probably be doing, at least for the summer, definitely having a virtual option. For the fall, we're anticipating the possibility of a hybrid option, or maybe we could break it up depending on how many, again, students apply. If there are enough to do a all in-person session, then we might approach it that way. But really just depends on the development of the situation, and also how many students are interested and with what modalities is best for them to learn. Yeah, and definitely do recognize, being on Zoom all day is very draining. And so we want to definitely approach that question carefully, just depending on how we monitor the situation.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemus.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. It was really informative. I had just two questions. One is more just like a clarification question. I understand that the program is going to be held in Sacramento, but is that open to only students within Sac County, or would it be open to the Sacramento area students as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so right now, we have not been very strict on, where students apply from. It's marketed specifically towards Sacramento, largely within kind of school districts within the city limits, but also open definitely to students in Sacramento County so far. We have had a few students from outside of Sacramento County, and they have participated as well. I think, again, it'll just depend on both the volume of students that we get who are interested, and also our capacity in terms of whether we're able to get funding to put on the program, and how much capacity we have. But definitely want it to be something that is, again, replicable, scalable, and reach as many students as possible. And I'll also add, I didn't mention in the presentation, as far as how we did our initial session, we did it through a Google Classroom. And so even for students who weren't able to make a given module, I recorded them. We had PowerPoint slides, and I made that all as accessible as I could to everyone who, regardless of whether they were able to attend in person or not in person, but live during the event, they could still access the content.
Well, thank you. My second question would just kind of be, I was reading the kind of layout of like what is going to be taught at these sessions. And I was wondering if there was going to be any portion of the program that was focused on kind of teaching students how to implement like all those very useful skills that are taught in the program. If there was any part that would be taught, like kind of how the students could implement those skills into kind of real world situations, or real world kind of like if they had, a passion project that they were willing to pursue, like if it's kind of taught how they could implement all those skills that they learned into that kind of situation, and like that way in that training.
Yeah, definitely. I'll say that, the list of modules is kind of a list of concepts, but throughout the presentation, it is very much grounded in, as I talk about, for example, a specific city project, I'll bring in specific examples of, okay, here's what the city of Sacramento or the city of Elk Grove is doing. And I'll try to make sure that it's grounded in real world examples, especially as we bring in our guest speakers, as we talk about their real world campaigns that they're currently doing. Kind of each session of the program, those examples will shift just depending on what's currently happening. But yeah, it is definitely we do definitely make sure to ground it in those real world examples. And also, in addition to the presentation, it does also, we have discussion format. And so as students have questions, as they have ideas, if they have passion projects, those are definitely welcome and encouraged. We hope the program, again, is an opportunity for students to take this, bring it to their schools, their communities, whether they create an environmental club at their school, whether they create a social justice club at their school, whatever they want to take it with and do with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Galvez.
Thank you for your presentation. It was really awesome to see another opportunity in Sacramento, especially for addressing the climate issues that we have going on. And I really appreciate that it's a grassroots nonprofit movement. It's really refreshing to see that we're still doing a lot of local advocacy. But one of the things that I just wanted to clarify, I'm really glad that the program is marketed for middle school and high school, but I was just seeing if there were some opportunities maybe for like college age students. We do have the community college here in Sacramento. I am proud to represent, and we also have Sac State. And I know that those areas have a lot of advocacy in their clubs and climate change. So I was just thinking, like, could there be a possibility for in the future maybe doing that kind of credit system or with community college or college students?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll just, speaking of colleges, I happened to be the president of the environmental student organization at Sac State when I was in college. So very much connected and tapped in and still engaged with that club at Sac State. Kind of when I was graduating back in 2019, one of the key things that I did was help organize with the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change, a university student summit on climate change. And then I also interned with the City of Sacramento Mayor's Office to organize a high school student summit. So definitely there are those connections. And again, as I talk about the scalability of this, just depending on the capacity, how much we can fund, how much we have in turns, how many people we can bring into it, definitely something that we can bring to colleges as well, both community and university.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any other member comments? Seeing none, I want to thank you guys again for your presentation. Climate change is one of the big issues we are trying to tackle on this commission, and we are excited to see what you guys do in the future. And thank you again for coming to present.